Okie doke.
Hi everyone, we're Optimus Robotics. We're joined today by Dr. Danielle Applestone, who's the CEO of Daughters of Rosie. Dr. Applestone, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I am a first-generation college graduate from rural Arkansas, and I started my journey towards engineering, building stuff with my dad in the shop and living out in the country, and have found myself on an entrepreneurial journey. Like I have started a couple of different companies in different sectors, software, robotics, and now in the talent space, talent and culture around diversity. And I think I'm supposed to talk about myself. I would also say that I really love being tasked with challenges that I've never done before. I think more than anything else, I want to maximize the amount that I'm learning in any given thing. So maybe I would say I'm a curious person at the end of the day.
That sounds all very interesting, and thank you for sharing that with us. So how did your previous engineering background influence your decision to start Daughters of Rosie?
I ran a manufacturing company that made robotics, or maybe we were a robotics company that had a manufacturing facility. But during that time, we hired a lot of people to be technicians at the company and manufacture and service the robots who didn't have a lot of, well, on paper, they were not the traditional people who would go into manufacturing. And what I realized is that gaining some hands-on skills can really open doors for people where they might not have considered going into manufacturing before, but once they get on the job, they become a technician and you teach them the basics, they're able to go on to roles that have much more growth potential than maybe some of the jobs that they had had before. And I think my experience as someone who started out just doing hands-on things and then becoming an engineer let me understand that mechanical aptitude is something that someone can just have, and then you can teach them skills on top of it. And so I thought maybe it would be interesting to see how many people would be inspired to join the manufacturing industry if they just knew what it was and had an on-ramp that matched their where they are and where they want to go.
Okay, thank you for sharing that with us. Whom do you consider to be an inspiration in your field?
I think I'm most inspired by the founders of small companies who actually take the time to ensure that their founding team or their first 10 or so employees are like create a diverse team, because it's something that is really hard to do. There's a lot of pressure to not do it, and especially if you're identifying as white male, cis everything, like the standard, like the typical founder, your network doesn't include a lot of diversity usually. And so those founders who put forth the extra effort and understand the importance of it and know that like this might be hard, I'm probably going to be uncomfortable, I'm going to make a lot of mistakes, and they do it anyway because they understand that diversity of thought, diversity of background on their team is going to lead to a more powerful company and a better product. And so though it's like not any one person who I'm inspired by, but it's like a group of founders that I've come across who really want to put forth the effort because they believe in it.
People who do value diversity are inspiring, and the work you've done for diversity is also very inspiring to us all. So we've seen robots on the International Space Station, dancing robots, soft robots, and industrial robots. Where do you think robotics will go next?
Hmm. It's interesting because I have seen a lot of people doing really difficult jobs at the entry level of manufacturing and being paid very little to do so. And so this is kind of like a blend of what I hope will happen and what I think will happen is that those jobs that nobody really wants to do, that are very hot or cold or repetitive, that don't engage your brain and don't really require a human touch at all. My hope is that those will actually be replaced. And I know that's kind of counter to a lot of people who are afraid of like robots taking our jobs, but there are some jobs that people are like, please take this job so that I can have a job maintaining a fleet of robots or making sure that I have more opportunities that I can grow. And in some ways, some companies, it if they don't have folks at the entry level doing the like very hard labor, their business won't make any money. And so they really need to have the folks in those roles and not promote them. And unfortunately, that means some people get passed over that were like normally should have been promoted, but I can't take you off the line and move you up unless I have someone to replace you. And that's a really hard thing to see. And so my hope is that basically all of manual labor will be automated. Um, and there'll be some combination of software and like physical robots to make that happen.
It's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that with us. So our last question is, what advice do you have for young women interested in technology?
My advice is to figure out who you want to be and what you want your life to be like, and then find the job that serves you rather than the other way around. I think a lot of folks will think about the job they want and then they'll sort of shift their life around to accommodate that job, even though it doesn't really meet their needs. And so it's like figuring out what is it that you want your life to be like? How do you want to be in the world? What are your needs, in terms of money or where you live? And then finding the thing that matches, because life is actually quite short and there are a lot of opportunities. And you will be so much more engaged with the work that you do if it actually serves you as a human being first, and then as like an intellectual engineer second. So that's honestly something that I've only really kind of related to recently within myself, is that like this is actually not up for negotiation. Like I want to have a life that I enjoy. I want to show up as my full self, and I want to cultivate deep relationships with the people on my team. And if those boxes are not checked, it's not a job that I want to take. So that's the advice I have.
Thank you so much. That's definitely impactful to hear, to kind of switch up the order of what career you want to go to versus what kind of passions you want to pursue. So we thank you again for sharing your advice for high schoolers and all the experience that led you to become the CEO of Daughters of Rosie.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. This was fun.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, I'll stop recording and then